Did you know your business can honor God while transforming lives around the world? Welcome to the IBAM Biblical Entrepreneurship Show, the weekly podcast that inspires and equips Christian entrepreneurs to build sustainable businesses that glorify God and uplift impoverished communities. At IBAM, our mission is built on the three fish metaphor. Give a fish. We provide startup loans to launch businesses. Teach to fish. We offer entrepreneur training for lasting growth, equipped for discipleship. We empower discipleship to multiply impact. Join IBAM's founder, Steve Adams, as he shares powerful solo episodes and expert interviews filled with mentorship insights and real-life stories of how biblical entrepreneurship is advancing the Great Commission. Subscribe now and get ready to be inspired, equipped, and empowered to make an eternal impact.
Hi, this is Steve Adams, founder of IBAM, and welcome to the IBAM Biblical Podcast. And today, I'm excited to share this. This is the title of this episode is My First IBAM Trip, the story of Sergei and Artur. Let me set the scene for you. It's June of 2007. This was literally my first mission trip ever about business. I had no idea about IBAM at this point, other than I had a desire to do business as mission. I'd gone on 3 medical mission trips to Thailand prior in 2004, 5, and 6. And so I had some exposure to missions, but not this kind, okay? Those were all highly choreographed and organized. This trip was me literally doing a survey trip and an exploratory training for the very first time in my life. And I was like 43 years old. So it was kind of scary to go. And, you also have to remember, I'm the age I was born in the 60s, the mid 60s, and I'm a child of the Cold War era. I knew little to no Russian at that point other than da and niet, which is yes and no. Now I know quite a bit. I can recall when I got to Vienna, Austria for my connecting flight, I was going to a town called Krasnodar, which is in the very south of Russia, down near the Caucasus where Chechnya is, where Sochi, where the Olympics was a few years ago. And when I was in Vienna airport, I had to go down a long tunnel with a document check that was officially a point of no return. And I realized at that moment, that this was kind of an intrepid moment for me, because this was the place of my childhood and young adult years that was my mortal enemy, the former Soviet Union. So when I arrived there in the middle of the night, and a missionary couple were there to pick me up that I knew from Wisconsin, very surly looking guards, prototypical Russian, no expression, very stoic, were there. But I got lucky. There was one booth where I got called up to where it was a lady, and she wasn't as stoic, and she smiled and looked at me. She didn't ask me any questions. She just went, boom, stamped my passport. And when you do missions and you hear that that stamp on your passport, that's one of the greatest sounds, okay? And I went in and got my luggage, and Danny could not believe I got through so quick. Normally he said it's 45 minutes, and I got in about 5 or 7 minutes. So God was looking after me big time on that trip, because I was such a neophyte, naive baby missionary person at that point. Well, after that, we went to Danny and Sherry's house, and I stayed with them in this Russian community. And I won't name it because there are still probably missionaries in that city, and I don't want to create any problems for them. But in the process of doing that, so my goal there was I was going to spend the week with 2 guys named Artur and Sergey, who owned a big home improvement store like a Home Depot, not quite as big, but good size for that country in particular during that era. Remember, this is 18 years ago. And the goal was they had a big expansion that they were contemplating, and they wanted to talk to this American businessman who was a banker but I was also a retailer at the time. I had a small group of pet supplies stores then. We hadn't scaled yet. And they just wanted to know what I thought of their plans and what the risk of the deal was and all of that. So prior to arriving, though, Danny, the missionary, asked me if I'd go to Atlanta and do some training with this organization called Joldas Group, who had done hundreds of startups using a lot of the principles that IBAM uses today in the early 90s under the direction of a pastor, former pastor named Michael Bayer, who had turned BAM practitioner and left his pastorate for a period of time to do that. Interestingly enough, I never had met him until last year, 2025. He had a book out in 2006, just the year before I'd gone to Russia, called Business's Mission, where he laid out the whole biblical mandate and reasoning for this and how to do it well and what their process was. And I loved it, and it looked like an instruction manual for me to start what I was going to do. And I even looked into doing it with them, but they were mainly in a couple of churches in the South, and it wasn't workable for me at the time to do that. And I worked with his right-hand guy named Tim, and he taught me their process. And then when I went over there, it really wasn't that process, but that was okay because it gave me a rubric from which to evaluate what they were doing. And just as an aside, here it is 19 years later. I've never met Michael Bayer, and I had him on the IBAM summit this fall and met him for the first time. And I just wanted to let him know what happened over the last 18 years. He had no idea. And he was so encouraged and blessed by the work that we're doing because we came from the root of what he had done the prior 16, 17 years himself. So here we are now. It's like a 35-year span in between Michael and myself and the team we have and the team he had to bring this to the point where it is today. So we're very fortunate for that. So anyway, I get there and our tour is very deceptive, okay? I don't mean that morally at that moment because he was a born-again Christian, loved Jesus when I met him. He looked like an accountant. He had nice clothes. He was a smaller framed guy. If I remember right, he had glasses. He was clean cut, and he was a former Russian Mafia assassin. No kidding. No kidding. And I remember tensing up when he told me the story about how he came to Christ. And I'll tell you that in a minute. And then Sergei, a big, muscular, gruff, Russian-looking guy, very surly. He was more Asian-looking, where Artur was very Russian-looking. He was a big teddy bear, and he cried very easily. And both of them, God reached them as Muslims. They were both Muslim background believers because down in the Caucasus, that's a primarily Muslim population there. How God had reached them through dreams and visions. And I don't remember Sergei's at all, but I remember Artur's because it was powerful because he was at a wedding setting up his tripod to assassinate this government official in the region he was in because he wouldn't take a bribe to approve an alcohol production facility. And by now, Artur had been witnessed to many times by a older man in his community who boldly did this to a Muslim. You know, that can be really not good for your lifespan in some parts of the world. And he said, as I had the government official in my sights at his daughter's wedding, he heard God say, "No, Artur, no, you're mine." And he stopped what he was doing. He put his gun away and he cried out to God in prayer. And then he went and met this guy, and this guy led him to Christ. And he went to his bosses in the Mafia and said, "You can kill me, but I'm out. And I'm going to go do something else." And he left, and they never bothered him again. And this is my first introduction to Business's Mission, you know, in an amazing place. And so anyway, what was really cool about that week was here we are, three of us, followers of Jesus, former mortal enemies. And we talked about this. In our lifetimes, we remember Soviet Union, United States, Cold War, And here we were eating meals together, sharing business dreams. We were talking about our families, had meals together. It was a beautiful thing. Well, at the end of the week, by the end of the week, we had come to the conclusion that I shared a story about when I was a banker and I was working on this restaurant deal where as a credit analyst with the lender, and it was a family in Grand Rapids, Michigan that had been successful for like 80 years with this restaurant, and they wanted to move to another side of town and open a brand new building and close the old one. And I remember Jim, the boss guy, said they have to double their business just to break even. And he goes, that's a major step up. I don't like the risk profile. I think we should do our jobs and tell them they should stay where they are and find a different way. They wanted to do catering and banquets, and he said maybe there's a way they can rent a facility, try it first before they do it. I use that story so many times in IBAM and in my own lending career, in my own business career, of don't bet the farm. In business, it's all about staying in the game long enough to figure things out. And I realize there are people that do that and get lucky, but it's not smart in general. And so I shared that with them, and they both were very grateful because they said they were really not at peace. And so they ended up not doing it. And it wasn't but about a year later, we had the financial crisis, and that rippled through the whole world. And they said to me later, that would have absolutely taken them down. And so they were grateful. And that was our first story. And I remember as I got to the airport in Krasnodar, which is down by where the war is being fought now in the Black Sea, I think it's called Black Sea, yes. And I remember as the plane was taking off, reflecting on God asking me to leave banking now 11 years, it was like 12 years earlier when he asked me. And when my journey to entrepreneurship started about 11 years before that, before this moment when I'm taking off. And I remember thinking that this is exactly what the Lord called me to do. God had given me a clear picture of what the future would look like. And it was really out of that trip that the vision and the structure for what IBAM is today really began. And so after 2007, I went to Australia in 2008 and met with a guy named, I went to Denver and met a man who became my mentor, David Ray. He was the CEO of Youth for Christ International for 10 years. He has mentored me for 17 years now in ministry leadership. And he helped me form what the general idea was. And we started working in Serbia and in Jordan, and then in Georgia, which is a former Soviet republic on the Black Sea, near where I was originally, and in Ukraine. And we did all of this for several years testing until we came up with a model, which mainly was 3 or 4 guys from America, get on a plane, go, do a whole week of training, go home, wait for their homework to be done, get on a plane again and go do it again and approve loans and give them the money. And we were smuggling cash in. That's how we were doing it back then. There was no systems. We had people on laptops with different versions of the validation tool. We weren't coming back and taking our key learnings and getting them in one version of the truth. We did about, well over 100 startups doing it that way. And we learned a lot. And then it was when COVID came onto the scene and we were forced to stop trips, we moved everything online and we discovered that our partners could do it just as well, if not better. And so in 2021, we morphed into what we call now our master trainer model, where we are empowering our partners to become master trainers. We grant them the money. They set up their own bank loan fund in their country. And what our role now is, after we teach them the beginning pieces of it and hold their hand, what we do is we consult with them over and over on how they run their loan committees, how they're making loan decisions, how they're training future trainers, which are really loan officers, how they're managing their portfolio, working through their problems. And at the core of all of it, though, is not banking. The core of it is a disciple-making entrepreneur in their own culture is reaching their own culture. They're solving their own problems. They're applying leadership in their community and in their churches. Because we all know entrepreneurs are leaders. They solve problems. And so they're solving a lot of the problems that foreign missions from the U.S. were meant to solve. Now, that doesn't mean we stop doing them. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means that we believe at IBAM that as we equip indigenous believers to do this process and to catalyze and launch new businesses led by disciple-making biblical entrepreneurs, the impact of that is so much bigger than sending one missionary. And for the cost of one missionary over 5 years, we can fund 700 to 800 of these entrepreneurs locally who already have language and culture. So listen to me now, it's both and. I'm not saying we do missions, but this is our unique contribution to the kingdom. And we do it all in a highly structured, systematic way. And we partner with people who buy into that process so they can repeat success. And so nowadays, what I'm doing is I'm actually, I've gone from being a banker to West Michigan and the Midwest to being a banker to the world through IBAM. Using that skill set I learned way back in my 20s and 30s. Now I'm in my 60s, and I'm going back and I'm taking those old principles and sharing them with our students. And it all started with Sergei and Artur. They were the first two students of IBAM. And I hope, God willing, we have many, many more now as we go into Indonesia and Africa and Central Asia and more. Thank you for being on the IBAM podcast. I hope you enjoyed these stories and more to come. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the International Business as Mission podcast, a space where we explore how to build businesses rooted in biblical principles that create global impact. But we're not just here to talk. We're taking action to spread entrepreneurship to poverty-stricken communities around the world. Our mission is to be the catalyst that empowers people to build sustainable livelihoods and break the cycle of poverty. We follow the 3 fish principle. 1, give a fish, providing startup loans to empower entrepreneurs. 2, teach to fish, offering entrepreneurial training for sustainable business practices. And 3, equip for disciple making, building a community that supports spiritual growth alongside business success. This is life-changing work, but we can't do it alone. We need passionate impact partners like you to join us on this mission by becoming a donor. Your generous gift will directly fund the establishment of new businesses that provide dignified work and hope. Just imagine your donation could help a single mother in rural Africa start a small farming venture that allows her to feed her children and send them to school, or a young man in Southeast Asia to launch a small business. Breaking the chains of generational poverty. This is the power of entrepreneurship as a force for good. Will you join us in unleashing it? Go to ibam.org now to start impacting lives through the transformative power of business as mission. Together we can create a world of flourishing.